Hi everyone, it's Tricia with the Messengers. I just wanted to come to you today. If you're a little unsure of what these videos are about, let me explain. So I'm reading a chapter of my book, Okay God, Let's Start From Here. Now this book is really special because it contains words from God straight to you specifically. One way I communicate with him is through writing in a journal, and I write down what he says back to me, and he makes sure that I know these words are for everyone, not just for me. So there's also in the book, there's scriptures to help you understand a little more of what's going on. And these chapters can be read in any order. So if you're watching these videos, it doesn't matter if you start at 1 or you start at 6. It doesn't matter. It's just the topics, you choose the topic you want to listen to at that time. So I encourage you, if you want to know, if you want to understand more, you can go back to our video, Tricia's book intro, on March 6th of 2024, and that will help explain a lot more of these things. So let's get started. Today, I invite you to join me to read chapter 4, Ask. Ask. It's something that we are taught to do from the time we're little. When my son was little, we used to say, use your words. He knew that he should not let us know what he wanted by pointing to something and whining. He did not get anything that way. He had to learn to open his mouth and ask for what he wanted. Asking God for our needs and desires is something he encourages us to do throughout the Bible. So let's look further into this subject. 1 John 5:14 through 15 says, "This is the confidence we have in approaching God, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we will have what we asked of him." And that part is really important, according to his will. John 14:12 through 14 says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." So many of us ask God for something, but we don't think he's ever answered. He will always answer, but we may not understand him. He has a different perspective than we do. God knows what is best for us. So what we think are unanswered prayers may just be the best things for us. James 4 verses 2 through 3 says, "You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures." Joyce Meyer, a Christian speaker and teacher, explains it this way in her book, The Everyday Life Bible. James summarizes the whole situation in one sentence. You do not have because you do not ask. Essentially, he points to how we try to get things ourselves instead of asking God for them. You may think, but I have asked God for things. He just hasn't given them to me. If you ask God for something and he does not give it to you, the reason is not that he's holding out on you. It may be that it is not his will, or now is not his time. It may be that there's something better he wants to give you, but you're not yet spiritually mature enough to have it. Whatever the reason, it is never because he does not want you to be blessed. You are God's child, and he loves you. He is a good God who only does good things. He wants to do for you so much more than you can possibly imagine. And you can find that in Ephesians 3, verse 20. But he loves you too much to give you something that is going to hurt you. He loves you too much to give you things that will ultimately make you more carnal or more fleshly, or They may even drag you into sin because you're just not ready to handle them. Does a loving parent give his children the keys to the car before they're old enough to drive? Of course not, because they know that they may end up in a wreck through their inexperience. God is the same way with his children. Because he loves us, he will not give us something before we have the spiritual maturity to handle it. I have discovered that the secret of being content is to ask God for what I want, and then rest in the knowledge that if it is right, he will bring it to pass in the right time. If it is not right, he will do something much better than I asked for. Again, that was Joyce Meyer's book, The Everyday Life Bible. You can find that on page 2068. So I just want to say this does not mean that we should stop asking God for the desires of our heart. He loves to bless us and see us succeed. One way God does this is through answering our prayers. When we ask, sometimes we need to do so out loud. God knows our hearts and he knows what we need before we do, but words are very powerful. We need to speak the words out loud because we need to hear it ourselves. It'll build our faith. Also, God is a gentleman, and he will not always work in our lives until we ask him. Okay, this does not mean that he will never help us unless we ask him to do something. But he kind of needs our faith to complete the task. So Jesus tells us in Matthew 7, verses 7 through 11, Mark 11, verses 23 to 25, and Luke 11, verses 10 to 14, what we need to do to receive from God. And we're going to read just the Mark 7, 7 through 11. It says, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks, receives. He who seeks, finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asked for bread, would give him a stone? Or if he asked for a fish, would give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him?" Just want to take a second here and say that the words that God says in my journal, those are going to show up on the screen as I read them. So these are some of the things he says concerning this area. He said, "Ask me what needs to be done because I can't just tell you everything. You need to care enough to listen and receive. If you don't care enough to ask, then you're not going to care enough to do. Ask, seek, knock. Ask and you shall receive. I promise. Maybe not as you expect, but you will get the right desires from the right heart. You have to trust me with control of your life. I am a gentleman, and I will never take over what is not given to me. You have to give me your life to control in order for me to do so. I need your permission. I need you to ask. Don't take for granted that I can just help out whenever I want. I have to be asked. You prayed in tongues today, and I heard the desires of your heart. But you have to ask me with your mouth. You know how important words are. So ask for your desires and listen for my answer. Ask me out loud for the desires of your heart. We both need to hear them. Keep your dreams in front of you always. Keep your dreams alive and dream big. I'm a big God who loves to have fun, and I have lots of fun blessing you and enjoying your praise and worship. I love it when you talk to me, no matter where or when. I love hearing you and being included in your day. I just want to say again that these all mention him saying you have to ask with your words. That's important to do, but I just want to say it doesn't always have to be that way. So don't be offended if you don't ask for something and God still gives it to you. Even in the Bible, people had to ask out loud. Jesus needed the people to ask him to heal them. They needed to use their faith to ask. Sometimes they had to do this very persistently. We find this in Luke 18, verse 35 to 43. I love this story. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard the crowd going by, he asked what was happening. They told him, "Jesus of Nazareth is passing by." He called out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Now those who led the way rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." So Jesus stopped, and he ordered the man to be brought to him. When he came near, Jesus asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord, I want to see," he replied. Jesus said to him, "Receive your sight. Your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus, praising God. And when all the people saw it, they all started praising God. Actions are also a way of asking. Many people in the Bible ask Jesus for healing by showing their faith through their actions. We find a woman with the issue of blood showing great faith in Mark 5, verses 25 through 34. I'm going to read this out of the Amplified, so there's some extra words in here. A woman in the crowd had suffered from a hemorrhage for 12 years and had endured much suffering at the hands of many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was not helped at all, but instead had become worse. She had heard reports about Jesus, and she came up to him behind him in the crowd and touched his outer robe. For she thought, "If I just touch his clothing, I will get well." Immediately, her flow of blood was dried up, and she felt in her body and knew without any doubt that she was healed of her suffering. Immediately, Jesus, recognizing in himself that power had gone out from him, turned around to the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" Now the disciples said to him, "You see the people, the crowd pressing around you from all sides, and you ask, 'Who touched me?'" Still, he kept looking around to see the woman who had done it. And the woman, though she was afraid and trembling, aware of what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith, your personal trust and confidence in me has restored you to health. Go in peace and be permanently healed from your suffering." In Mark 2, verses 3 through 5, we find that the faith of friends even counts as faith to Jesus. We all need to have friends like this. I love this story. So then they came, bringing to him a paralyzed man who was being carried by 4 men. When they were unable to get to him because of the crowd, they removed the roof above Jesus, and when they had dug an opening, they let down the mat on which the paralyzed man was lying. When Jesus saw their active faith springing from confidence in him, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." And that again was in Mark 2, verses 3 through 5. I just want to say, God is not hiding from you. He wants to bless you and reveal his plans for your life. This is what he says. "Keep asking and searching. I told you, you would find me. I'm not hiding. I'm just waiting for you to come to me. I can't just come to you until you're ready. I'm not hiding. I'm in you. Ask me. Ask me for your heart's desires. Your heart desires the things of my heart." He said, "I'm always talking and I'm full of answers to all your questions. I love to reveal myself to you and my plans for your life when you ask me and seek me with your whole heart. Keep your focus on me. I have all the answers you seek. Ask me like you're doing now and listen. You will hear me in that still small voice in your heart. I will guide your steps if you will ask me and allow me to work through you." Now, it's very important to remember that when you ask, you must truly believe. Ask with a faith-filled heart. There are a couple of Bible verses that comment on this. Matthew 21, verse 21 through 23 says, Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but you can also say to this mountain, 'Go throw yourself into the sea,' and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer." James 1, verses 5 through 6 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind." He wants us to ask him for more of our heart's desires. Joyce Meyer again teaches in the Everyday Life Bible, there are two ways to handle problems, the natural way and the spiritual way. James 1, 5 through 6 tells us how to solve our problems the spiritual way. It says if you have trouble, simply ask God what you should do. You may not receive an answer immediately, but you will find that divine wisdom beyond your natural understanding, will begin to operate through you, helping you know what to do. Again, that was out of her Everyday Life Bible by Joyce Meyer, and that's on page 2060. God says in the journal, ask for more wisdom and insight. We are disciples of Christ, and we're supposed to not only go into the world, but to be fruitful, meaning that we show God in our lives. We know that trees are fruitful when we see an apple tree full of apples or an orange tree ripe with fresh fruit. Jesus tells us that God wants us to bear good fruit. He shows us this concept in John. This is John 15, verses 6 through 8. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. And a couple verses down in John 15, verse 16, he said, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. We often say a prayer and then walk away expecting God to do all the work. And then we wonder why nothing happens. Sometimes we just need to ask and let him explain things to us. He is the one who tells us what we need to know, so we must listen and understand. That is so important when you do ask God, when you do talk to him. Stop and listen to what he's saying to you. He says this in the journals. Ask. I want to explain, but you must ask and listen. I will show you wonderful things, but you must ask me to understand them and put them into perspective. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. So watch what you put into your mind and spirit. Think on pure and lovely things. Think on me and listen to what the Spirit is saying to you. You need to listen and obey. Now that journal entry is also in chapter 2, listen, but I think it's important in this one too about asking. There is joy in asking God for our needs. Jesus tries to comfort his disciples by explaining this. They may not have understood at the time, but they did when these truths happened. So let's look at John 16, verses 22 through 24. So with you, now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. In that day, you will no longer ask me anything. Very truly, I tell you, my Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Until now, you have not asked for anything in my name. Ask and you will receive, and your joy will be complete. God is pleased and happy to give us the desires of our hearts. He doesn't begrudgingly give us what we ask, but it is our responsibility to ask. We cannot expect to receive before we even ask. He said, "It is your responsibility to seek me and ask me what you need and when. It is my responsibility to look after you and come near to you when you come near to me. Let me take care of you. I love to do it. It makes me happy to please you and take care of you when you ask me and put me in control. I love being the daddy, the one who fixes all your problems. Just let me. Ask me and let me." And this one is a good one. Keep asking. It's simple, but it's a good reminder. It's also very important to thank God. I think this is one of the most underrated areas in the Christian life today. Even when we say our prayers before we eat, we thank Him. But do we do so with a truly thankful heart? Or are we just repeating the same words over and over again? It's fine to say the same things repetitively, but it's all about what's in your heart. We should always have a heart of gratitude. It not only pleases Him, it lifts our heart and brings our spirits to life. He says concerning this, "But you ask and I love to answer, and then you thank me. Wow, it makes it even more joyous. You make my heart sing. I have angels who sing to me all the time, but when you thank me and let me in, it is more wonderful than all of heaven." Now that is how I want God to feel all the time. I want to please Him and draw near to Him all day, every day. This seems to sum up how I feel. One thing I have asked of the Lord, and that I will seek, that I might dwell in the house of the Lord, in His presence, all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty, the delightful loveliness, and majestic grandeur of the Lord, and to meditate in His temple. That's Psalm 24, verse 4. I just love that. I'm not saying that I'm there yet, but I'm better than I was. When I do mess up, I know I have a loving Father who is always there to help me start over again. I can truly say, "Okay, God, let's start from here." That's our chapter 4. I thank you so much for joining me. I just love these times together with you. I hope you guys are learning or just having fun with this reading. So you can contact me anytime at www.themessengersradio.com. And we have our email up there. Just send me an email, and I love hearing from you guys. So until next time, y'all have a wonderful day. Bye.